Kidnapped, walking the scene with you in old flicks from the 90s. So keen, the VHS Club, they're the talk of the town. Breaking it down, spreading nostalgia all around. Moving and grooving to the synth-pop sound. Their insight so fresh, painting pictures profound. From Pulp Fiction to Clueless, they know it all. The genuine love for movies stands strong. Unfolding memories on that VHS screen, talking about classics like you've never seen. Katie with her charm, Matt with that wit. Together they make the VHS Club legit.
Welcome back to Spooky Month here at the club. It looks like many of you hanging out with us in the live studio audience, many of our tater tots are not fans of Spooky Month, so it'll just be Nat and I here talking amongst ourselves this time.
Maybe they're just not into slashers. Because this is like a very classic. This is one of the iconic classic slashers.
It is. It is very true.
Some people just don't like all the slashing.
Yeah, actually, so this is let's kick it off while we talk about the synopsis of this movie. So if you're hanging out with us in our live studio audience, why don't you drop into the chat and let us know what your favorite Halloween movie is? It can be anything, could fall into that category. We'll do a live poll here and see what people like.
Spooky season can go from like pumpkin spice to horror movies
to whiskey.
Yeah. You know, like there's a spectrum of spooky season. You define it as in your comfort zone. So let us know.
A spectrum of spooky season. I enjoy it. I think that's fantastic. All right. Well,
Hank says I only watch this because Katie and Nat told me.
Exactly. Well, I love a slasher movie. I love a slasher movie. And so obviously there are a number of like iconic slasher villains. So you have Freddy, who we're going to talk about tonight. You have Jason, who we talked about last year. You have Michael, who we talked about last year. And then you have like Ghostface. I was trying to think who else falls into those. I mean, those original three are kind of the original
Ghostface, Hellraiser. Yeah, you gotta have spikes in the head at some point. There's Candyman. Ooh, Candyman. That's even like there too many B's.
So, yeah, it's funny. I don't not that I shouldn't say I'm like I don't consider Candyman part of this iconic group of the villains, but
so
it does feel like a little
dying in the
yeah,
woods. You know, like
true.
we do need teens dying for it to really be a slasher, but
there are no teens dying in the woods. Well, Hank says Casper the Friendly Ghost. Another vote for Casper the Friendly Ghost from Josh, and Hocus Pocus, which Josh only saw for the first time last year. Hocus Pocus is iconic. Stands
Kenny
in its
Ortega.
Stands in its own
See,
world.
We always come back to Kenny Ortega on this podcast because we're obsessed with him. And yes, Kenny Ortega directed and I believe did some choreography in the original Hocus Pocus.
Probably.
Obviously was not attached to the sequel. Not as good.
Not as good, but you know what? A fun watch. Like it was never going to be as good, but I enjoyed watching it for just to be back in that world again, even though I knew it wasn't going to be as good.
I like the sisters.
I like the
They were
sisters.
still sisters, but like there was a couple of musical numbers. It was like one too many that I was like, fast forward because
Yeah.
why is the dad singing about candied apples? No,
Yeah.
dude.
Yeah.
No.
Well, we're sorry, everyone. Cover your eyes and let's not fall asleep. I will say, and then I'll let you get into the synopsis because I know you're itching and you have your claws ready to dive into the synopsis. This one, in my opinion, is the scariest out of the slasher movies, and I think it's because it is in the nightmares, and there's just something like foundationally scary about like being in a space that you can't at all control, like versus all of the teenagers in the woods who are having sex and then getting chased down by crazy killers. They at least like, it feels like they stand a chance. Like they can see the killer coming at them, they can run away. Many of them die anyway, but it feels like they have a chance versus the nightmare people. Like they like trying to stay awake, copious amounts of coffee, and inevitably just pass out, and then they're just screwed. Like, which feels, I don't know, spookier. Do you feel like this one's spookier than the other ones? Scarier than the other ones?
No.
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 No. All right, well, jump.
Because, well, let's go through this.
Let's jump in. Let's
and
jump
then I'll
into
give
the
my
synopsis.
reasons. Okay, so this group of 4 friends, 2 girls, 2 guys, boyfriend, girlfriend, friends.
Boyfriend and girlfriend, yep.
And they wake up one morning, this girl, Tina, is like, oh, I had the scariest nightmare, which I loved. Like, she wakes up from this nightmare. Her mom comes to check on her. She literally has 4 slashes down her nightgown, like slices through her nightgown. And her mom says, well, you either need to cut your nails or stop having these kind of dreams. Which is like,
yeah,
parenting 101. That's
yeah,
great.
the parents in this movie are iconic.
Well,
We're gonna say
they do fit with the stereotype of slasher movies. So,
80s parents in general, where they're just like, you're fine.
yeah. No soft parenting
No.
pre this decade.
No.
So these friends, Tina's asking, like, I had this really weird nightmare. And then Nancy's like, oh, that reminds me exactly of the dream I had last night. And it seems that they dreamt of the same guy, or bad guy, chasing them with knives on his fingers. And the 2 guys are kind of like, oh yeah, nightmares or whatever. And oh, I didn't wake up scared. I woke up with a heart on. Whatever, boys, teenage boys. But it kind of, we as an audience realize that all 4 of these kids have had the same type of nightmare. Of course, nobody believes Tina. Her friends do their best to try and tell her she's crazy. Then Tina falls asleep and dies a horrible death. Her boyfriend gets blamed for the death, falls asleep, dies a horrible death. Then Glenn, Nancy's boyfriend, falls asleep, dies a horrible death. And Nancy's like, well, this is going swell. She finds out from her mom that back in the day, there was a filthy child murderer that, due to sloppy police work, did not get convicted and got set free. So the parents decided to have a lynch mob and brutally murder the child murderer.
Yeah, and they're just fine. They're living their lives.
yeah. Flash forward 10, 15 years. And this filthy child murderer is coming back in their nightmares as some sort of paranormal being to pick off the children of these parents that killed him.
Yep. That may be your best summary to date.
Yeah.
I mean, you succinct,
That's
accurate. That's basically it. I love, the character of Nancy definitely could have also been played by Jamie Lee Curtis. Very like strong Jamie Lee Curtis vibes, where she's just like the only one in the movie that's like, nah, like I'm gonna solve this. And like her lines,
very Survivor Girl.
Very Survivor Girl.
Days,
yep.
Very. Jamie did it first.
Yeah.
She's the first original Survivor girl. But this is very like within the same
Yeah.
couple years. So it's
Yeah.
like this is very Nancy's like, I'm gonna take charge. Like, and
Yeah.
of course it's the 80s, so it's like, let's do some research. So her boyfriend researches dreams and all different how dreams and nightmares are perceived in different cultures. And she has this book and he's like, what are you reading? And it's basically this survival, like a booby trap book.
Yeah.
And I was like, where can I get a copy?
Yeah. Poor, I mean,
Girl needs to know.
pour one out for Glenn. So Glenn is played by Johnny Depp, which is already incredible. It's his first introducing Johnny Depp. It's his first movie. He was only hired for this movie because one of the crew members, someone involved with the making of the movie's teen daughter was like, I'm gonna run away if you don't hire this man. Like, I'm straight up in love with him, which yeah. And so
beautiful.
So they hired him because he was affordable and it felt like it would keep this family together without this girl running away. So they hire him. But I think he played this so incredibly well, and his character is kind of incredible because he's both like wonderfully like goofy. He's like somewhat of a supportive boyfriend, but still like a bit of an idiot.
Well, still
like
a teenage boy.
He's still a teenage boy. Like he breaks into her room at one point, like after their friend has been murdered. And, and he's being typical teenage boy. And she's like, you need to sit here and I'm going to fall asleep and go into my dream and you need to wake me up. And he's like, gotcha. And then of course they're both asleep and she wakes up and is like, you're an idiot. Why did you do that? And like, it's just
for the same reasons that she hasn't slept in several days. He hasn't slept in several days.
Yeah. And then I do love like, in my scattered review of this movie, I also love Glenn's parents, who it's like, I know that Glenn is a teenager and I'm about to be a mom of a teenager, which is terrifying. But so it's like almost midnight. They're very clear about the fact that it is nearing midnight. They're
11:49 on the digital clock.
Yeah,
is what it showed.
They're a group of parents who have been living in a city that had a child murderer who killed 20 children, and then they grouped up in a lynch mob, as Nat said, and murdered him. And now their kids are dying again. And the mom is like, what are you watching? And he's like, nude models at like nude Miss America.
Miss Teen America.
And she's like, okay, well, make sure that you're judging them for their brains as well as their bodies. Like, wink face, have a good sleep. And then she goes downstairs and she's like talking with the dad. And the dad's like, I don't like that sketchy girl across the street. And then
the guy who murdered somebody 10 years ago.
Then the girlfriend calls, and it's like, again, it's probably midnight at this point, and like the parents are just awake answering the phone and like totally like somewhat annoyed that she's calling and like, well, he's asleep and you can't talk to him. And the dad like jokingly is like hangs up and is like, you need to be firm with these teenagers, right? But I'm like, this girl says the guy who murdered a child murderer, and B, like, there are like crazy things happening in your town, and someone from across the street who's going through some stuff is calling in literally the middle of the night. And at no point are you like, hey, are you all right? Do you need to come over? Like, they're just like hang up on the crazy girlfriend. It's not like it's the beginning of the movie.
Like her and her boyfriend both witnessed a heinous crime scene.
Yeah.
And they're like, she's crazy.
She's crazy. She shouldn't be near our son. And I was just like
okay,
maybe we could see if she's okay. Like, her dad is the police chief or whatever. Like, feels like she wouldn't be calling in the middle of the night for no reason. Like, either don't answer because it's the middle of the night, but if you're going to answer, assume it's an emergency.
And if
it's
she's
the middle of the night.
Can you go make sure he's not asleep?
Yeah.
Like, maybe.
Like, small ask. Small ask. You just had like a whole banter
go
with
and
him.
Check on him. Like, don't go wait. Like, as a parent, you'd be like, you know what? Maybe I should go check on him.
Yeah. No, they're fine. They're like,
no
we're going to bed.
The parents.
No.
So with slasher movies, we have a couple of like common tropes that every slasher kind of is obligated to do, thanks to, Wes Craven and etc.
Yeah.
So Wes Craven did this movie, and he's like sort of like the godfather of horror movies. He's like, anyways. So the rules of thumb is there's if you have sex, you're gonna die.
Mm-hmm.
So right at the beginning of the movie, Tina has her two friends and then her boyfriend come over, and her and her boyfriend had like a little spat, nothing, no big deal, and then
Mm-hmm.
they
Makeup.
decide to make up and have
Yeah.
sex.
Mm-hmm.
And Glenn wants to have sex with Nancy, and she's like, "Look, no, we're here to support Nancy tonight. We're not fooling around."
Yeah.
So of course Tina dies right
Yeah.
away.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Mm-hmm.
it's like Tina clues in right away that something is seriously wrong, and that maybe these dreams, since they're all exactly the same in four people, might be problematic.
Mm-hmm.
So her friends gaslight her, which means she's going to die
Mm-hmm.
because nobody believes
No one
the
believes the one
messenger.
who's sleeping around either, obviously.
Yeah, and then she has sex. So
Yeah.
rule of thumb, if you are a teen in a slasher movie and you have sex, you die.
Yeah.
And then also there's the parents are either never around or never believe the teens.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. In this case,
Ever.
the mother is like, well,
Well, we find out she's an alcoholic.
Tina's mother is
for a reason.
AWOL, and then and Nancy's mother is like a single mother alcoholic murderer.
Yeah, which makes
Just,
sense
you know.
because she took part in brutally murdering somebody.
Yeah, she's
Even
erasing
though he
some
was a bad
memories.
guy.
Yeah.
She's like, can't live with it.
Mhm.
Another sort of thing is there always has to be a chase scene, and where the bad guy is chasing them and taunting them, and is suddenly right behind them when they're not expecting it. Like
Yeah.
there's jump scares are kind of mandatory.
This one, though, I will say, okay, so this one is slightly different again because there is I don't know, I hesitate to use the word magic, but there's kind of there is like a otherworldly quality that allows
paranormal,
him to
yeah.
do different, like, so in the case of like Jason, right? Like he's just walking and the teenagers are running at full speed and he just manages to catch up with them, but he's like always like chasing them, right? Whereas like
Yeah.
Freddy, because he's in their dreams, he just like appears in one spot, appears in another spot, like crawls out of the the wall, it like
Wall,
comes up through the bed, like,
mattress.
so there is like sort of, again, like, which is why I think it's a little bit scarier, like, but then it's also
Yeah.
sillier, so that it is, he also talks to them, whereas the other two killers don't say anything, and I feel like not saying anything is scarier, so it is interesting. So the differences, I would say, are that he's in this like otherworldly nightmare world, so he can control that world, whereas the other killers can't, even though they're definitely not human, but that's that aside. And then he does
Have supernatural qualities, but it's less obvious.
yeah. And then
Yeah.
Freddy like is, and he gets progressively, he's not as much in the first one as in the later movies, but he gets progressively like sillier, I get, like he's very like sarcastic and he baits them and he talks to them and so he has a
He taunts them
personality where the other ones
right.
don't.
Yeah. So one thing I think that took me out of the scary for this particular movie is, so when Nancy's like, you know what? She goes, her mom actually doing a good parenting thing. It's like, I'm taking Nancy to the doctor.
Yeah, that's like Dr. Good parenting. I agree.
She just went through a huge trauma. She
Yeah.
witnessed her friend's blood all over the bedroom. Like,
Mhm.
and they suspect the boyfriend of doing it, which he's saying, no, there was definitely somebody else in there. But what have you. So, I mean, they're looking at this point for a human suspect. So the boyfriend seems likely.
Yeah.
And no, brain holes. COVID holes. What happened? I don't know. The thought's gone, Katie.
You were
Help
saying that
me.
you were saying that the mother was a good parent because she took her into the sleep clinic. Yeah.
Yeah, so she took her to see an actual like neurologist to see if there's something wrong with her. And I
Yeah.
mean, granted, at the time in the 80s, I don't think they were diagnosing PTSS, which is post-traumatic stress syndrome, which is very treatable and a real thing that, yes, like the kid just experienced a huge shock, a huge trauma. So she's in the sleep study. She has the nodes all hooked up to her head. And then the doctor's like, these readings are completely abnormal. And the girl wakes up with a shock of white hair, which happens when you experience an extreme trauma.
Yeah.
And she has a man's hat. Like, they
I
put
know.
her in the room. She's
Why don't
like,
they keep her there? Like,
No, but-
like that's
well,
the
I mean,
safest
what's the
place.
doctor?
But that is the safest place for her to be, is like hooked up so that as she starts having these nightmares, they can like wake her up. But yeah, it's
Well, yeah. but the doctor's probably freaked out because he's like, I have no idea what any of this means.
Yeah, I guess.
Because it's scientifically impossible. And then also there's the fact that they all know she wasn't in there with the hat, and then all of a sudden has a hat.
Yeah.
And she's like, I pulled it out of the dream. And so, medicine and logic aside, they go home. And she realizes I can pull him out. So she wants to pull him out and have Glenn kill him.
Kill him, yeah.
And she used this expression. What was it? Cold cock him. She's like, you're going to cold cock him. And I was like, I beg your pardon? What does that mean? So I looked it up. It means knock someone out on the head with a blunt object. Yes. Apparently it was a thing people said in the 80s. So
Today's
I don't
word
know.
of the day.
We might need to bring back cold cock because that's
Cold
hilarious to say.
It feels appropriate for the season. It feels appropriate for the season. I love, so shout out and welcome to the Nostalgic Pod Blast season screamings to you as well. They say the creepy shot of in the bathtub of Freddy's hand. Shot is both like, is a great actual representation of this movie because it's both creepy as hell and also incredibly ridiculous and also like sexual. Like, so it's like the perfect mix of like everything about like a slasher movie and everything about like this movie. And I love that it
have to have hypersexualized teens.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, granted, this scene is hypersexualizing between the legs of a 14-year-old child, but
well, 80s and problematic.
It's 80s slasher movie.
The whole thing, you know that I'm now a mom because the whole time I'm watching that, I was like, why are you taking a bath? You're so tired. You're going to fall asleep and drown in the bath. Like I was like totally had forgotten about the hand in the bathtub scene, which I'm funny that I like forgot that one because it is so like, I don't know, memorable.
It's iconic.
And, yeah.
If you say slasher, that's one of the things people will think of.
Yeah.
Like it's
yeah.
I
want to talk for a minute because, and I don't know if you read this because I know you and I like finished watching this movie minutes before we started this episode, but did you know that this is actually, and I laugh even saying this, which is probably not even funny, but this movie is based on a true story, which I don't even know, right? So I read that and I was like, I'm sorry, what? And then I read in more detail. I guess no, that's what you would expect. I guess there are actual cases that Wes Craven had heard of people who like scared themselves to death in nightmares, like while they were sleeping.
Oh yeah,
like,
well Johnny
known
Depp
cases.
was talking about that in the movie Glenn.
Yeah.
So I feel like that was Wes Anderson. Wow, wrong Wes. Wes Craven. Definitely the wrong Wes.
Yeah, definitely
also
the wrong
filmmaker, not this kind of filmmaker.
Not this kind of filmmaker. Different Wes.
Aesthetic.
Yeah, apparently Wes Craven picked that up from a real, like, actual news story, and that just blows my mind. If you had told me even earlier today that this movie was based on a true story, I would have been like, no.
I'd be Googling what serial killer was like killed children, many, many children, and then got lynch mobbed. But
yeah. I do love that these movies like also never seem to, they get away with not needing actually to have all that much of a backstory to still be scary and have a, like in this one, like
usually always is an origin story.
There's an origin story, but this one is not detailed. Like there's like literally a 2-minute scene near the end of the movie where the mother is like, oh, he killed a lot of people and we murdered him. But at no point are we like,
by the way, I kept a souvenir. She kept the glove that Freddy made with the knives to murder the children with.
To prove to her daughter later that she had killed this guy.
Why
totally fine.
Keep that. And also, if I was Nancy, so Nancy realizes I can pull stuff out. Let's get him dead. I'll pull him out. But my first thought would have been like, I'm going to exorcise the fuck out of the glove and then burn it in a ritual burning called the priest.
Yeah.
That would have been step one. If that didn't work, then I would have been like, I will try and sacrifice myself and all my friends through dreams to kill him in the dreams or pull him out of the dreams. But that wouldn't have been step one.
I do also love like how much Nancy's dad totally fails in this movie. Like he's literally across the street, like not solving, but like cleaning up basically after the murder of her boyfriend. And she calls him and like very like clearly is like, I'm going to get this guy. Obviously maybe the dad wasn't involved in the original killing of Fred Krueger,
It looked
but
like he was, though.
but it seemed like
When
he
she
recognized
said
the name.
it,
Yeah. So she's
he
like,
knew who it was.
she gives him all of that information and like clearly says like what she's going to do. And he's like, okay, well, you get some sleep now. Like, love you. And just sends her to bed. And then all he does is puts
Tell a deputy,
puts a
the
deputy
house.
basically outside her house when
Not
he
walking
literally,
the house.
he's
He was
literally
across the street.
across the street, but he's like working on a case where both parents were home in the house with the person who was like brutally slaughtered in their room. So it's like, maybe don't, like, maybe you care more about your own daughter and you leave the like 18 detectives that are there for the murder scene to like handle that, and you go over like she even gave him a timeline. Like he could have even like stayed for 20 more minutes and gone across the street to help her, and he just doesn't. Like he just doesn't do that.
About the timeline for a second. Okay,
This would not be
down,
me.
but,
I'd be like, it would take me
the
6
math is
hours to
not-
fall asleep. Yeah.
The math is not mathing. Okay,
The math.
so
I didn't do any math, if that's what you were expecting.
he calls Glenn at 11:47 or 11:49. I can't remember what exactly the movie said.
A little bit
Either
before
way,
midnight. Yeah.
like 10 to 12. Okay, so she so Glenn, so she calls Glenn,
Yeah.
and then she falls asleep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Freddy chases her.
Yeah.
She wakes up.
Mm-hmm.
Glenn falls asleep.
Yeah.
Freddy then goes and murders
Massacres Glenn. Yeah.
Iconic. Sucks him into the bed, and then
Yeah, blood
explodes
everywhere.
into
Yep.
the bed.
Mm-hmm.
Just liquid Glenn.
Yeah.
all
Liquid
over.
Glenn. Yep.
Liquid Glenn. dripping up to the ceiling.
Great band name and red t-shirt. Liquid Glenn. That would great. Yeah. Go ahead.
So then, okay, so she falls asleep. So she calls Glenn, talks to his parents, falls asleep, gets chased by Freddy,
Yeah.
wakes up.
Calmly
falls
calls her dad. Yeah.
No, not yet. Glenn falls asleep, gets murdered.
Dies. Yeah.
She puts her mom to bed in the meantime, has a whole conversation with her drunk mom,
Mm-hmm.
which I don't know why her mom was in a single bed. I'm like, you're an adult. You can have a bigger
You
bed.
can have a
Whatever.
You've been through a lot. You deserve a
I
queen
know.
bed. At least a double. Yeah.
So then all of the cops and all of the ambulance and the coroner have all showed up
Mhm.
to Glenn's house.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
And she proceeds to booby trap her own house from
Yep.
all of the knowledge garnered from her survival
Yeah.
book.
Like
okay?
like a teen version of Home Alone. Yeah.
Correct. Okay. And then she speaks to her father and says, "Come and get me in 20 minutes." And she's like, it'll be like
12:30.
a quarter past midnight.
Yeah.
Okay. She says a quarter past midnight.
Yeah.
And then she goes and she falls asleep to find Freddy and Dream.
So what you're claiming is, in defense of the dad.
Between 11:50.
Yeah. In defense of the dad, if he had shown up at 12:20 or 12:15, it would have been too. Yeah. It would.
No,
Yeah.
but how did she do all of that? How did
Yeah.
all of that happen?
She didn't.
How
She didn't
did-
look at the clock.
How did but they showed us the clock as the viewer.
Mhm.
So how they showed us the clock when she called Glenn, and they showed us the clock when she set her timer to wake herself up, her alarm to wake herself up like at 12:20. Okay.
Mhm.
So it's like, how did all of that happen in
It's a
like
dream.
25 minutes?
It's a dream world, you know. It's like it's a
Nobody
magical.
I mean, like, what town would the coroner even get there before the lieutenant?
A town where people are murdered all the time. 20 kids were killed. Yeah.
Anyway,
That's a
I was just like-
high number of like.
And she booby trapped the
Yeah.
whole house, which was pretty iconic. Like she was like drilling through light bulbs and like with like and putting like shell casing, like gunpowder in them. So she was like drilling through glass.
I know.
putting shell casings.
I had
setting up
logistics
all the-
questions about the drilling through glass. I was like, what do you?
I don't know. Like
didn't know
that
what that
equipment
did.
flying around her vodka mom's house. Like,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah. The poor mom's going to wake up and be in trouble. Well,
and I was like, who's gonna have that many like? Who's gonna just have like random shotgun like casings around? It's like, Oh, right, America. But maybe that's normal. I don't know. You need a
All right.
special license. You don't.
Well, I
Ugh.
saved this review that I wanted to read, everyone. Don't worry, we're hiding behind here. We're still here. So Kendall says, 4 stars. I recently watched this for the first time, and I have to say I found it hilarious. I haven't watched many horror films, but I do not think this one is nightmare producing or sleep with the light on type. The movie, now in 2022 and on, is very cheesy yet entertaining. There isn't much suspense, and the overall course of the movie is very predictable, but I have to give it 4 out of 5 stars based on how many times it made me laugh out loud. Despite how cheesy and not at all scary this movie is, I still wouldn't recommend it for anyone under the age limit suggested per the rating R, because of all the language and a romance scene, and the gore might be questionable, but it looks extremely fake. I liked it. It was very funny. I would recommend.
It's
It was
amazing.
probably one of my favorite, because I was reading through all the reviews, and most of them were like pretty positive. This is like a pretty well rated like
Yeah.
slasher horror flick, but
It's well respected in the genre, and
Mhm.
it's a cult classic. So
yeah, but I did love hers because I felt somewhere in between. I actually do think that this one, as I've said, is scarier or scary than probably the majority of ones that I read. And I'm the kind of person, so I'm curious about all of you who are saying that. So I see Kathy even saying that not a big fan of the scary. So
yeah,
I can watch slasher movies all day and not be scared at all. I find them
we used
amusing,
to
and
have horror movie
yeah,
Tuesdays.
I
when
can
we
do
lived
that,
together. It
no
was a thing.
problem. And I can do like a decent amount of scary movies. I do draw the line at anything that is like all of the like religious demon anything, yeah, any of that stuff. Whereas I'm married to someone who will not watch like even the thought of like a slasher movie, not at all,
God,
not
no.
his thing at all. But
He put up with us
he
once.
loves
He went
he
to a scary movie with us.
loves the religious, like creepy, scary,
Oh yeah.
like kind of stuff. So it's it's a whole different, it's interesting. So people who are not fans of scary, are there like kinds of scary that you will do or not at all? No scary at all? Because it is, people's version of scary is definitely interesting.
So what took me out of the scary for this is when she sets up her booby traps and she falls asleep and Freddy's chasing her, it sounds like she's having fun. She's like, "Over here, Freddy!
Yeah.
Over here, come and get me!"
Because she's
Like,
delirious.
excited.
She's had
She's
like
excited
85
about her
cups
booby
of
traps.
coffee and she's not
I
slept in
don't know.
days.
I don't know. I feel
It
like
is
she's
funny.
just like gleeful that she's gonna get him.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, she might be.
Which, okay, so let's talk about the ending. Okay, so
Mhm.
there's technically two endings in this movie.
Mhm.
And I had to look it up because I was like, I've seen this movie many a times, and I'm not I'm not dumb. So I'm like, but I feel dumb because I don't understand the ending.
Mm.
So what happened is the original ending, the first part of the ending, is Nancy realizes her fear, like her fear, her fueling the nightmare is what gives
Him
Freddy
power.
his power.
Mm-hmm.
So she's like, you know what? You don't have any power over me.
Mhm.
Like, her name's Sarah. No, it's not. that was a Labyrinth reference. So she's like, we're done. Like, I'm not fueling this nightmare anymore. She
Yeah.
turns her back on him. He lunges at her, but he
Evaporates,
disappears.
yeah.
Like he basically explodes. Like he's
Mhm.
done. Like
Poof.
she's not scared of him anymore. He doesn't exist anymore, and that's it.
Yep.
And she learned that if she can get past the initial scares, if she realizes that she's in control of herself,
Mhm.
then she's okay. Which, great lesson. That is a great lesson. End of movie, roll credits, right? No, the producer was like,
No.
I don't like it.
Because
So we're going to tack on
sequels.
another ending.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, there's still a sequel if somebody gets scared again.
I guess that's
You
true.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
whatever. So this one, the ending makes no sense. Where um, she's like, I want everybody back, she tells Freddy.
Mm-hmm.
So then she wakes up. She looks like wonderfully rested because her eyes were getting bloodshot as she went into like day 6 or 7 of no sleep.
Yeah, which
And
would kill you.
yeah. Yeah, well, she does say, she's like, 11 days is the most. I checked. what she tells her boyfriend while he was still alive.
Mm-hmm.
So she wakes up, her mom's there. Her mom's like, you know what? I hit rock bottom last night. I'm not going to drink ever again.
I know,
It's
yeah.
like just magically
She's just
sober.
like, we all had a great night's sleep, didn't we? Let's be sober now. Like,
Yeah. It was like said no alcoholic ever. But
Mhm.
I mean, I'm sure they've said it, but has it happened? No. She looked totally clean, right?
Also, she had a great night because she passed out drunk and missed all of it. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Drink.
Uh-huh.
Well, I mean, no, actually, she did get burnt alive by Freddy and sucked into hell. But what that aside, she
Yeah.
woke up feeling great. She's done at the bottle,
Mhm.
and then she goes out, and Glenn, who lives across the street, picks her up in a convertible,
Mhm.
and her two friends are in the back who do not live across the street. So, logistics aside, they get in the car. All of a sudden, the soft top rolls up, and you see it's the same stripes as Freddy's iconic red and green sweater,
Mhm.
striped sweater. And then they get trapped in the car. The car starts driving off, and she's like, ah, and they're all gonna die. So
Mhm.
everybody's dead, like everybody.
Yeah.
Roll credits.
Roll credits.
It's like, it makes. I'm like, but is everybody dead? Like, does she wake up? We don't know. It
I
made no sense.
I took it as everyone's dead, he wins next movie, but
I, well, Wes Anderson was pissed, and this was tacked on not by the people making the movie. Well, I mean, by the people paying for the movie.
yeah. Well, this, I mean, and allow me to pull up so I
Yeah.
quote this fact correctly, but this this movie, yeah. So New Line Cinema. I was trying to remember which movie house or whatever production company made this. New Line Cinema was basically on the verge of bankruptcy, and they like almost didn't release this film, and then it made a ton of money. So they still refer to New Line Cinema as the house that Freddy built, which I think is absolutely incredible. And so just scrolling through a few other different fun facts, but it only cost about 1.8 million to produce. Figure it made back in its opening weekend alone. So like this movie did really, really well. So it is a little bit, and I say that with the like counterpoint of what you just said, in that I feel like a lot of times directors and creators of these kinds of movies are, especially people like Wes Craven, we're set out to try to make something like special, different, memorable. Like they are like the kind of defining forces behind like these kinds of genres, right? And so I'm sure for him, for him it was like, no, like we should end on this like important moment. But really, like the studio was like, no, we want to make people scared. We're going to make a ton of money. We're going to continue making all of these all the way through. Like this is one of 9. So there have been 9 Freddy movies so far. Yeah. Who knows it? If there will be more. So it is. I think you're right. It is interesting, and obviously Wes Craven it was not involved in all of them. He did come back and do.
He did produce a lot of them, though.
He
I'm pretty
came
sure.
back and did shoot. It's like the new it was called like the new Nightmare on a New Nightmare or something like that.
There was one that came out in the 2010s or something.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yeah, I do remember something like that. Yeah, it was one of his last films, I think.
Yeah, so he does come back. Apparently Freddy Krueger was also supposed to be a child molester, but I guess there was like a big child molester case that was happening at that time.
Filthy.
So they
filthy child murderer.
This is how bad it is, though. Like they were like, originally he was just going to be a child molester, but then there was this big case going on at the time, so they were like, no, we don't want to. That's bad. So we'll make him a murderer of 20 children. That's better. We'll call him a filthy murderer.
Well,
that seems
calling
fine.
him a filthy child murderer immediately made me think he was a child molester / murderer. Like murder was the final stage of his dealings with the children, because they also say that he dragged the children off to like this warehouse or whatever. It wasn't like no, that was fully implied. They just didn't say the word molestation, but ugh.
We should talk about this for a moment. So the nostalgic pod blast says that Robert Englund, who plays Freddy in this movie, I think all of the movies, was a good guy in V, which we reviewed
Yeah, check
we
out our episode. We have a little
reviewed
shout out to him.
previously. Those words are hard to say in that order. He's also apparently is he passed away? I don't even know. I couldn't tell you. Anyway, we'll say is. We'll go with is. He is a wonderful person in real life. Like, there was article after article after article that just talks about him being literally like the most genuinely nice person ever. So,
Yeah.
I kind of love that.
I've heard often that people who play these really dark characters are actually
Yeah,
like just cinnamon
lovely
rolls in
people.
real life.
Yeah.
Like,
It said in a lot of the things that I was reading leading up to this review that the like at least the actors, I don't know if the crew as well, but like people were actually like pretty freaked out even making this movie. Like even the act of being in it was scary to people. So if you
yeah.
if you're sitting here and you're like, nah, just this is not what I wanted to watch, you weren't alone. There were a lot of the
So
actors
I
that
have
were
one thing,
freaked out.
a question
Sure.
to everybody. What?
Yeah.
How many times have you left your house for any reason without shoes?
Yeah, I had that
Because
question as well.
every scene. So Tina at the beginning, she
Mm-hmm.
hears something outside.
Mm-hmm.
Once she's fallen asleep, we know she's in the nightmare. She
Mm-hmm.
goes out to investigate with like nothing but like a button-up shirt that she grabbed off the
Mm-hmm.
floor on,
Yeah.
no shoes, and then she's walking down an alley. Which
Yeah.
where was this alley? They're in the suburbs. Where does the alley come from? It's dingy and dark and like has crap all through it. Like this doesn't seem like where their houses are, but okay. And then Nancy, so Glenn, who runs across the street and climbs up the rose trellis to her window, he's like, don't leave me out here too long because I'm barefoot on a
Yeah.
rose trellis. And I'm like, that could have been a rom-com. So cute. The boy lives next door,
Yeah.
climbs
Team
up the
Glenn.
rose trellis to hear it,
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then, but also barefoot. And then when they decide to go hunt Freddy down, Nancy leaves the house barefoot. Glenn is following her to make sure she's okay.
Yep.
Also barefoot.
Mm-hmm.
They're walking down the street, but then suddenly down an alley. Where did these dingy alleys come from? And then they're suddenly downtown, like city center. And then she, like, at the jail to check on Rod, and then, like, falsely accused of murdering Tina. And then she runs back to the house, and I know they're in the dream, but like she runs back to the house, and it's like 3 seconds, and it's like I need a map of the town because like where are these alleys and why are they
Yeah.
barefoot the
Well,
whole time?
alleys are creepy. So it's funny. I noticed the
I would
barefoot
have gone to
part,
sleep with my shoes
but
on.
I was
Honestly.
actually I was way more flabbergasted, and maybe this is just me as a person, but I was way more flabbergasted at like that's the shirt that you grab. Like I know that that's like the sexy look to be like in bed in your partner's like button up dress shirt, but like there are multiple moments where they're like grabbing something quick to sleep in, and I'm like, a button up shirt? Like a white button up shirt, that's your choice?
Which is hilarious because her
both
boyfriend
women,
wasn't
like-
even wearing that.
Yeah. I'm like,
It's not like she grabbed her boyfriend's shirt.
like I actually would believe naked or t-shirt way more than I would white button up shirt. I had so many.
I mean, it was a look.
It
It's
was a look, but like for
Yeah.
bed, okay.
Speaking of clothing,
Mm-hmm.
could we talk about one of the also rules of an 80s slasher, an unspoken rule, is
Unspoken rule.
male midriff, male crop
Mm-hmm.
tops.
Male crop tops. Yep.
Love it.
Love it.
John
Bring those
Depp
back.
says in his male midriff bare
Mm-hmm.
male 80s crop top. I'm like, yes, he's about to die. He's wearing the crop top.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Which, yes.
Yeah, the crop top's good. It did. I felt like
You know
so.
the person wearing a crop top, if he's a dude, he's dying in one of
Yeah.
these movies. It's like
But it feels-
automatic.
Doesn't it feel like a missed opportunity though? Because you have this moment where Glenn is in bed in his midriff crop top, and you see his whole stomach, and I was just like, I knew what was going to happen because I have seen this movie many, many times. But
Yeah.
for a moment, I was like, oh,
It would've
feels
been
like
cool, right?
feels
The
like a
claws?
stab, like right through the claws,
yeah.
right through. Would have been a better move because of the midriff and the crop top. It just really, it feels like it was.
Then he just
serious.
gets sucked into the bed, but
Mm-hmm.
yeah, the claws should have gone through
Through.
the abs And then pulled him in.
Yeah,
Yes.
through the abs. The blood. Okay, so I want to talk a little bit about about blood and also the staircase feet sucking in moment, because it was something like, I'm scrolling through to find the exact number. It was like 500 gallons of fake blood or some ridiculous.
Isn't it made out of like corn
Over
syrup or something?
500 gallons of fake blood were used during the making of this film, and I was like, holy cow!
Can you imagine the smell?
The smell.
How
Ooh.
sticky.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that's made out of corn syrup or something. I remember seeing something like that on Bill Nye once when I was a kid.
Yeah. Yeah. It's made of like, corn syrup. And then they used, so if you remember, and you do not, because we literally just watched this, but when she's running up the stairs and her feet are like going into the staircase. So that is like a pancake batter mix that she's stepping into. They made sure that the stair carpet was the same color as it. I was like, oh, that's clever. That's clever. I feel like it, but yeah, gross.
Really
It would have
gross.
just been like disgusting hanging out.
Bacteria.
Josh is asking, Josh, you have seen this show before, right? Josh is asking why we're asking for logic in a slasher movie. That's the fun of the review, just to
Because
really.
we're Survivor girls.
Yeah.
That's why.
Yeah, we'd live.
We read their survival booby trap manual. That's why.
Yeah. I will post this. So actually here, so nearing the end of the episode, plug for our brand new newsletter. So you can sign up for our newsletter. I will throw the QR code at the end of the episode if you're watching, but if you're listening, you can go over to the VHSclubpod.com and you can sign up for our newsletter there. I was listening to another favorite podcast of mine called Obituary, which is way more famous than we will ever be. But they read off, and I found the article so that we can share it with all of you, but they read off like based on your horoscope, how you would die in a slasher movie. And I was like, this is our we need to also share this. So I will send that out to everyone who is in our news list, so you can find out, and then you can all let us know what your horoscope is, like what your sign is and how you would die. Because I was surprised by some of these choices. I was like, interesting.
We'll have to make an Instagram post. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But so I will ask you, Nat, and you have not read any of this yet, and I don't have it in front of me, so I won't spoil it for our new email subscribers. But yeah, if you had to guess based on your sign of Gemini, how do you think you would die in this horror movie? I know you would live, so but like pretending that you would die, how do you think you would die?
There's this heinous stereotype going around that most serial killers are Geminis. So I'd probably be Freddy, but apparently Aries are most serial killers. Just putting it out there.
So wait a second. I ask you how you're gonna die, and you're like, I'd be the killer.
Yeah. Because that's the stereotype. The stereotype is that most serial killers are Geminis, which is not true. They're mostly Aries, but whatever. How would I die? I don't. Spiders, lots of spiders. Lots of spiders. If it was a nightmare, yeah, that would be it.
Oh, that's a good point, right? Because it's a nightmare. So I would probably fall off like a really tall building. That's my scariest thing.
I think you'd slip on like some stairs, weak ankles.
Weak ankles, yeah. But I feel like I would need to fall from somewhere high. So like the top of the stairs.
Like really like high wrought iron stairs. Like something like in the whatever Balconville in Montreal, like the external staircases.
Well, now I'm not gonna sleep tonight. It started fun and now it's gone. It's gone.
I'm just gonna be covered in spiders. Katie's gonna fall off some like deathly staircase. Yeah. Or I'm the serial killer.
I did love that was your answer. I love that you looked at me for a good 3 seconds and you were like, I would live. That's what your head was thinking. And then when I made you die, you were like, no, I'm going to be the killer. And then, okay, if I have to die, that's good. So
I would have burnt the glove after exercising it. And I don't mean running it through like its paces. I mean like its biblical exorcism.
Paul would be going off an overpass or a bridge. Yeah. Yeah,
he does live near a big bridge, right?
Yeah. That's a good one. Don't do that, Paul. Stay away from bridges.
Yeah,
it's October.
No bridges. No bridges in October, Paul.
Not going near any bridges in October.
I've never had nightmares up until like maybe a month ago. I
Oh
had
no.
one of my first nightmares, and the worst part wasn't the nightmare because I was like, I'm a very lucid dreamer. Like I'm always
Mm.
conscious that I'm dreaming, and I
Hmm.
understand that I'm dreaming. And if I don't like it, I just change it. But which is apparently weird, but that's I've always everybody in my family's like that.
Hmm.
So I realized it was a nightmare, and I'm like, this sucks. Next, and but then I thought I got out of it, and
Hmm.
then I didn't. And then I was like, okay, well, just wake up because this blows. I'm not getting out of the nightmare. Like, just wake up, Natalie. And then I couldn't wake up. And like, I literally, and it happened a few times where I was like, okay, I'm lying in the bed. These are the sheets that I'm on. I'm facing this side of the wall. Like, I had to consciously remember where I am to wake myself up. And it was horrible. And I don't know if it was some kind of medication I'm on or something, but like, fuck no.
I,
So that's my nightmare is I thought I woke up but did not.
yeah, I mean that's a
Yeah.
common one.
Ugh.
I have not had a knock on wood. I have not had a nightmare in a very, very long time. I had a recurring nightmare I had a couple different recurring nightmares when I was a kid, like preteen age
No.
around those years. One was that I was being chased down by a pack of wolves. They didn't ever catch me, but I was being
Puppies.
chased down by them. And then not nice wolves. And then the second one was I watched some show or heard some story or something like that. I was positive that a cat burglar was going to break into my house, and if I opened my eyes while the cat burglar was in the house, that he would straight up murder me. Like he was only going to murder people if they woke up. This was my belief. So
This feels like
mhm. I feel like it's something that
you watch
Janelle
All Dogs
Joe
Go
probably
to
told me.
Heaven.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like
Mhm.
All Dogs Go to Heaven slash Where in the World is Carmen San Diego?
Mm-hmm.
Like
Something in
some
there.
bad crossed wires there.
Something cross wires. Josh needs to stay away from escalators. Don't go. So Josh,
Yeah.
this is your October Halloween warning. Do not go near any escalators. We don't want
Yeah.
any tater tots getting injured during
Yeah, we're
spooky
not gonna
month.
Final Destination anybody watching this
Ooh,
or
speaking of
listening to
Final
this.
Destination, so I was cleaning out I was cleaning out my attic. I was cleaning out my attic and trying to find all my VHS and my DVDs
Yeah.
to start prepping, actually having them on shelves so I can find things and stop paying streaming services so much. And I
Sure.
found my like box set of Final Destination. And I was like,
Oh, you had the whole complete collection, and it was the DVDs,
I
and you
have the
had the
whole
Choose
complete.
Your Own Adventure one?
I have the Choose Your Own Adventure one, and I'm kind of like, maybe this needs to have bonus episode.
Yeah.
Maybe this needs to happen this month. Final Destination.
There was
I.
this iconic night, Katie and I and our friend Danny were watching
Mm-hmm,
Final Destination Choose Your Own Adventure, and there was this
mm,
horrendous thunderstorm outside. And of course, right when we're choosing like the final choose your own like death
mm-hmm,
situation, this huge crack of lightning hits somewhere close. Like
mm,
you could smell it. Thunder, the power goes out.
mm-hmm.
Like we scream, and then because the power was out, our very old fridge from like the 70s like
Yeah.
immediately starts leaking water, and our friend Danny goes into the kitchen, slips and falls, and he like they were like 6'4", so it was like a big flood. It was
Yeah.
we lost power at that time, I think, for like 7 days. It was a really bad storm. But like, yeah,
But
that
I'm
was the
still
last
up
time
for
we watched that.
rewatching it. And I have to
Yeah.
say, they should really bring back Choose Your Own Adventure movies for all genres. It doesn't even have to just be scary, but the idea
Yeah.
of having that level of control is just, it's really
Well, I
nice, you
feel
know?
like nowadays people live it all the time. They choose their own reality.
I
So
guess there was that TV show. I didn't watch it, but there was a recent TV show where everyone watched it in a different order. People in the chat probably know, they're like
yes.
screaming at me as to what it's called, but I did not see it. But that is as close as I think recently we've gotten to a
Yeah.
Choose Your Own Adventure movie. But anyway,
I
Final Destination should be on our list for.
last weekend I was up at the cottage, and all the logging truck, like now that the
Mm,
summer season is
mm-hmm,
closed out, all the logging trucks are going out to the nationally protected forest to log, I guess, whatever
yeah.
that means. I live in Quebec.
Mm-hmm.
And but they were empty, so I was like, oh, thank God we're like going in the opposite direction.
See, everyone, we didn't add that as a nightmare, but every person that grew up in like the 80s and 90s,
Like
like,
Gen X, Nintendo Gen, early
yeah,
Gen
we had a
Y.
fear of log trucks.
Yeah,
Still have
you
a
do
fear of
not
log
drive
trucks.
behind a logging truck. That is a solid for sure.
Uh,
Yeah.
well, not. I can't say that I'm enjoying that you all are sharing your nightmares in the chat, but it feels very appropriate for our Nightmare on Elm Street movie review. Well, we should get to the point where we review this one.
Mhm.
I struggled with reviewing on this one, so if you're hanging out with us in our live studio audience, feel free to drop in your potatoes or I don't know, slasher knives. You could knives, blood drops. I think that's an emoji. Feel free to play around with any of those. And if you're like, what's a live studio audience, and you're listening to this show, thank you for listening. You can hang out with us most Thursday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern on YouTube if you want to actually be part of the VHS Club, be part of the club, and contribute your ideas and your feedback. Like our friend Daniel Garcia, who's hanging out with us, who's saying that Jeff Goldblum is a horror film that has been overlooked. Wait, are you saying that Jeff Goldblum is a horror movie? Is that just mean? That's
No, Mr. Frost.
Oh,
with
Mr.
Jeff
Frost.
Goldblum.
Okay.
Full sentences.
Full sentences. It's too late for full sentences.
No, Jeff Goldblum is a dream.
Yeah.
A dream boat.
I can never be scared of him. He could be a bad guy or a murderer, and I'd just be like, yeah.
Still attracted to him.
Still attracted to him, but so Paul says that he was too scared. All the taters flew out the window. No, zero taters. They're on the ground outside
Fair
somewhere.
enough.
Well, pick up those potatoes before next week's episode because, you might need them.
Yes, we're not doing all slasher horror. We're doing some suspense thriller, psychological thriller.
Well, Nat has been saving all of the different memes and GIFs and video clips from Silence of the Lambs. So I feel like that's got to be next week now. What do you think? I feel like you're prepped.
Yeah, I'm ready. I have my tweed blazer ready to go.
So we're going from whatever you do, don't fall asleep to
A wonderful glass of Chianti.
I was gonna say what's our favorite line from Silence of the Lambs? There's so many. So we'll go with that.
Chianti.
we will be drinking Chianti next week, but not eating people, and we'll be happy to be chatting through all things
Well
Silence of the
moisturized.
Lambs. Well moisturized. Oh, good. Paul can do that one, so he's in. He's in for that. He's in for that one. Oh, great news.
Oh,
well,
one thing I
go
wanted
ahead.
to mention.
Mhm.
So in the movie,
Mhm.
some of the music that was scored for the movie, like different,
we didn't
like
talk about
there's
the
one
soundtrack,
where it gets like more tense and one
Mhm.
where it's more relaxed and then
Mhm.
it gets more tense. They use the same music for the Nintendo game, like the original
Ooh.
Nintendo system, the
I
NES.
wonder if I have that on my.
I do.
I will find it because I have
We used to play that a lot when we were kids.
Yeah,
You, me, and
that's
my
a good one.
brother. Whew.
All right, that might
Yeah,
So,
anyways, so when I was watching it, I was like, oh my god, this is the same movie from the Nintendo game. That is so cool.
fantastic. Well, Josh is saying that he's giving this movie only one tater tot, the one on his new VHS Club t-shirt. So thank you for supporting
Awesome!
VHS Club. I love it. I absolutely love it. Well, I was at actually, so I still had 3 in from last week, but Nat said we should be 4, so I'm gonna update to 4. I really struggle with these ones because I think if we're reviewing all movies, I would say
this is
3.
in context of a
But in
slasher
context of
movie.
a slasher movie, I would say 4.
I mean,
since
this
none of you are
stands
horror
up way
movies,
better
you can't
than
fight
any
us.
of the new ones.
Yeah, true.
Like, I
True.
mean,
The new, yeah.
the only, and I'll say new loosely because
Mm-hmm.
it's getting to 10 years old. Not quite, but
It's
it'll be
almost
there
in our
soon.
world. Yeah.
Is Friday the 13th, 2009.
Mm.
That is actually one of my favorite slashers.
Mm-hmm.
It's definitely the best Friday the 13th, and that's saying something because I love all of them, and I kind of even now love the one where Jason goes to space.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
Also, if you are into these movies, definitely watch Freddy versus Jason.
Mm-hmm.
There's a rave. It's crazy. I loved it. It was completely ridiculous. And it's
5 out of 5 potatoes, Jason.
at one point, you don't even know, like, you're kind of rooting for Jason to take Freddy out. At some point, you're like, hey, well, my buddy Jason better win this.
Because
they decide to not just kill kids, but then, like, they start trying to kill each other. It's phenomenal.
Mm-hmm. And I will say it's because Freddy is a little bit obnoxious. Like there is something about the fact that the other two don't talk.
dick.
Yeah.
But also, Freddy was a bad guy to start off with.
Yeah,
Like, he was
whereas
a
Jason was
terrible human
just a
being.
kid that was that was abused and let
Yeah.
down. Yeah. And
Like,
Michael
Jason actually has a tragic story. And I
Michael
think
does too, right?
Ghostface,
Michael's
or
no,
Ghostface
Michael
is,
was just a bad kid. He was a bad kid. I'm trying to remember.
he was born
He
evil.
was born evil. Okay. All right. So Team
So, I
Jason.
mean, not really his fault. He was just born that way.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Ghostface also sociopath. All of them,
Mm-hmm.
because it's always a different Ghostface,
Mm-hmm.
but they're always completely sociopathic.
Mm-hmm.
So really, just Freddy. Freddy's just a terrible person to start off with.
Mm-hmm. But
Like,
not
he
Robert.
killed little kids, though, not teenagers. He killed
Mm.
little children.
Yeah.
It makes him worse.
Which sort of
Not just
begs the
teens killing
question
teens.
as to why he's going after the teens now. Like it feels like it
Well,
has
he's
to do with the fact that their parents killed him, but then
yeah,
we get no context for that because slasher movie.
those
So
days.
yeah,
Yeah.
and
No,
you know what?
Doc
It
has
was fine.
seen
I didn't
Michael
really think
Myers.
about it
Yeah.
until right now, so it didn't bug me. Didn't stop me from enjoying the
I
movie.
had many a question about what are Freddy's like logistics? What are his parameters? Can he haunt more than one person at a time?
Yeah.
Like, does he have like a split ability, or does he
Mm-hmm.
hop from dream to dream, from kid to kid? Like,
Mm-hmm.
Nancy seemed to think he was tied to her nightmares only, even though all of her friends died in their nightmares.
Yeah,
So,
that was a weird.
Nancy, you dumb.
Yeah,
But
that was a weird moment. You know
yeah,
what? All of these movies are really missing, and maybe they exist, and I just don't. I just don't know that they exist. But I feel like these movies are like calling for a prequel. Like I would like to know. I would like to
well,
like know how. Like I would like to see the have the bit of a story where he's. I don't want to see the
yeah,
killing of the kids, but like the
no.
end of that story where they kill him, and then
Like
have him
when he's
like
being
end up in a dream
tossed.
world and realize like how he can gain control, and then like
Yeah,
plot
yeah.
for years to come in. It could be that
I
would be
think they
a fun movie.
explore it. There are flashbacks in other movies.
Okay. All right. I
And
gotta
Rob
rewatch the other
Zombie
8.
did some great Michael Myers movies.
That's
The
true.
Rob Zombie Mikey movies are, I call Michael Myers Mikey because
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, he's adorable with his little white face. I'm crazy. Um, but yeah, no, Rob Zombie's Halloween movies are phenomenal.
Mm-hmm.
Phenomenal.
Have you seen Jason Takes Manhattan? There's a vote
Yeah,
here for Jason Takes Manhattan. Chase,
yeah.
good call. Good call.
I think, is that the
Yeah.
one where the dog dies?
I don't
I think
see.
dog dies. It's like a
They all
cinematic
blur in my
no-no.
mind into one movie. It's the same thing with like when I read books back to back. I'm such a binge person that I like watch everything or read everything back to back, and then it's all
Yeah.
just one like blob in my mind. So I couldn't tell you. I couldn't tell you at all. But yeah. Who's your? I can't remember if I asked you this at the beginning of the episode, Nat, but who is your favorite out of the 3? Let's go with the 3: Michael Myers, Freddy, Jason. Do you have a fave?
Oh, Jason.
Jason.
Yeah, I love the Friday the 13th movies. I like the setting at camp in the
Yeah,
woods.
I think I'm with you. I think Jason
I
is my
think
favorite.
I like that whole,
Mm-hmm.
New England vibes, fall, like, or early summer camp setting. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I just like the whole setting.
Mm-hmm.
And he doesn't have the hockey mask, I think, until the second or maybe even third movie.
Yeah, that one. Like when
So I like that they're all of the movies. I
Mhm.
mean, up until 10 or whatever it was, but like the
Yeah.
first handful of them are all important. He's not even supernatural until like later in the movies, in
Mm-hmm.
the series, which I like how they explain all of it. Like Freddy, we're just like, I guess he's a supernatural being.
Mm-hmm.
um, and Michael Myers, I think it was in Halloween 5 where like they nuke the town and he just like
He's just
dusts
fine.
it
Yeah.
off the rubble, like for
Mm-hmm.
no reason whatsoever because he was human. Like Jason, they actually fully explain like where he gets the hockey masks, why he chooses the machete, and he becomes supernatural on purpose, and like it
Mm-hmm.
all becomes a thing. So yeah, I
Mm-hmm.
just like that whole world.
Well, Doc is calling you out because Voorhees is a Canadian name. That's why. That's why I like Jason.
Oh yeah, cool. Love that. I'm like, what's a
love,
Canadian name?
love that. Yeah, not sure what a Canadian name is, but I'm here for it. Well,
It
we
sounds a
did
little
it.
like
We didn't think we would make it all the way through an hour because we're a little bit October. There's a lot going on in
We're a
October.
little punchy.
We're a little punchy, but that's okay. We're here in Spooky Month, and if you're here with us and you're like, darn it, we're here in Spooky Month, I don't like horror movies, we're promised we're going to mix it up a little bit. So keep an eye on our schedule. Swing on over to our site, so the VHS Club pod.com, and then you can sign up for our new newsletter. That's how you're going to keep on top of everything. So, if you miss anything, we'll keep you apprised. Who knows? Maybe we'll do some fun, crazy Halloween things. Maybe, you never know. You never know with us. You never know. But
And,
we did have people vote
next week for Silence of the Lambs. Katie and I, as I don't know why or what the origin story was. Maybe we saw a book at the library once, but Katie and I love serial killers.
Yeah, I don't know.
Not in real life. We like to read about them. We're fascinated about what makes them.
We're your
tick.
average white women. We're gonna white women.
But I can remember us looking at this in the library when we were like 7. I don't know how that happened.
That's true.
I think basically, as an average white woman, it's like we need to learn how to survive the most deadly thing in the world, which is white men.
Yeah. Sorry, white men, but you cause a lot of problems. So we
sometimes love you.
We're a little afraid of you, so we gotta practice up on this. We gotta take Nat's vibes, and we're like, no, I'm gonna be the killer. I'm gonna be the killer, not you. It's me. I'm gonna be the killer. I'm the problem. It's me. Well, thanks for hanging out. Thanks for hanging out, Nat. This was I'm ready now. This was a good kickoff because we had already done the other 2, and we did Scream, so I guess technically the other sort of 3 super memorable slasher killer movies. So now we're ready to move into some different stuff, a little bit of a different horror stuff, and we're obviously still personally going to watch
I find
Hocus
the
Pocus
psychological
and all the
thrillers much more terrifying. Much more terrifying.
I'm excited. I'm excited. So Silence of the Lambs. All right, Nostalgic Pod Blast wants our website, so I'm just gonna type it. Play the music. Na na na. No, we can't listen. We get in trouble.
Nope. No.
Oh my gosh, the VHS Club pod.com. Here it is. We'll put it up on screen. That's where you can find us. But thank you for hanging out, and we will see you next Thursday, 9 p.m. Eastern, if you want to hang out with us live. Otherwise, listen or watch wherever you'd like. You have the control on your TV and if you're a gym person, that sounds fun. Running, walking the dog, exploring nature, getting chased by a serial killer, whatever, you feel like is where you could be finding us and listening to us. But we appreciate it. We will see you next time. Thanks, Josh.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Katie and Nat, rocking the scene.